Hello class, welcome to Algebra Lesson 2-3, which is all about standard form equations. By the end of this lesson, you should be able to write and graph linear equations in standard form. So why don't we do a quick review on the different forms that we have learned so far. So we learned about slope-intercept a couple of days ago, and that is y equals mx plus b. B represents where our graph, our line, will cross the y-axis. Then, yesterday we learned about point-slope form, which is where we are given a point and the slope, and we can use that information to either graph or write an equation. And today we are going to learn about something called standard form. Standard form looks a little differently because you'll notice that x and y are on the same side of the equal sign this time. So we have ax plus by equals c, and we know that a and b cannot be fractions or decimals, okay? That's very, very important. A and B cannot be fractions or decimals. Also, A cannot be a negative number, okay? So those are just a couple of things to keep in mind. This is maybe a good thing for you to take a screenshot of or jot down in your notes, whichever you prefer, because this is information that's going to be very important in order to be successful for the test. So let's start by understanding standard form of a linear equation. And a good way to start with this one is actually let's talk about a word problem. I know those usually come towards the end of a lesson, but today we're going to start with that. We know that Hannah will spend $150 on music festival tickets. Okay, so I know that that's the total amount she is going to spend, okay? We know reserved tickets cost $25, so I would say 25, and then I don't know how many of those reserved tickets she will buy, so I'm going to say X. And general admission tickets cost $10, so I'm going to use Y for my general admission. And in order to find my total, I would add up however much I spent on reserved tickets and however much I spent on general tickets in order to get my total. So this is how I would represent the situation with a linear equation. Okay, so it just naturally makes sense in this case to put x and y on the same side of the equal sign because those are the two values that we're adding up to get to our total. Okay, so I have 25x plus 10y equals 150. And that's all I have to do for this first problem here because it just asked how can you represent the situation with a linear equation. Why don't you solve this one on your own? Hannah will spend $325 on music festival tickets. Reserved tickets cost $55 and general admission tickets cost $15. How can you represent this situation with a linear equation? Good luck. Hopefully you ended up with 55x plus 15y equals 325. Again, you don't need to solve anything. We were just setting up the equation. Now, let's talk about what it looks like to graph from standard form. When you are graphing from standard form, it's different. You don't have slope like the last two forms that we've done, and you don't have like y equals, okay? When you have standard form like this, what you're going to do is you're going to solve for the x-intercept, and you're going to solve for the y-intercept. Now, let's talk about intercepts quick. When we are talking about an x-intercept, that means that the point is somewhere on this x-axis. And I'm just kind of putting a bunch of points on the x-axis. And if we look at this, and I write out a couple of these points, one that would be 0, 0. This one would be 5, 0. This one would be 10, 0. Down here I would have negative 10, 0. Here would be negative 3, 0. Notice that with all of these points, what is my y value? My y value is 0. Okay, so if I'm looking for an x-intercept, that means my y has to be 0. So I'm going to plug 0 in for y in order to find my x-intercept. So then negative 2 times 0 is just 0. So I have 3x equals 12. If I wanted to write the in-between step, I could write 3x minus 0 equals 12, and then go to 3x equals 12, and divide both sides by 3, and I would get x equals 4. So I know that my x-intercept is actually located at 1, 2, 3, 4. So this is my first point, and we need to now find the y-intercept. So let's talk about the y-intercept. If we look at the y-intercept, that's anything on the y-axis. This point would be 0, 10. This point is 0, 0. This would be 0, negative 5. And this would also be 0, negative 10. So notice that when I'm looking for a y-intercept, my x value is always 0 on the y-axis. So in order to find the y-intercept, I am going to plug 0 in for 3. 0 in for x, not 3. 0 in for x, and then 3 times 0 is 0 minus 2y equals 12. If you're someone that doesn't write that 0, that's totally fine, but make sure you carry down that negative. Frequently when people have a 0 in front, they will often drop that negative, and then they'll go right to 2y equals 12, and they're going to get it wrong because then you end up with the opposite sign. So divide both sides by a negative 2, and you get a negative 6. So my y-intercept is at negative 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So there are my 2 points. And when you're graphing in standard form, that's all the points you need, okay? You can just plot the x-intercept and the y-intercept. Now, if you were asked to write your intercepts as ordered pairs, what would that look like? If x equals 4, that's going to look like 4, 0. And if y equals negative 6, that intercept is going to be 0, negative 6. And sometimes the book will ask you to write the ordered pair for your intercepts or your solutions for this graph, okay? So hopefully that makes sense. When you're solving for the x-intercept, you plug 0 in for y because you want to get rid of the y, so you have x equals something. When you solve for the y-intercept, you want to plug 0 in for x because you want x to go away, so you have y equals something. Why don't you take a minute and solve this one on your own? Good luck. Okay, for this graph, hopefully you ended up with y-intercept or x-intercept at 5, y-intercept at negative 4, and your graph looked something like mine. If not, please be sure to reach out for some help. I'm more than happy to assist you. Let's move on to example 3. Use the standard form of a linear equation. Tamira is making trail mix. She has $40 to spend on a mixture of almonds and cashews, and she wants about the same amount of almonds as cashews. How can she determine how many pounds of each kind of nut she can buy? So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to set up that equation. We know that almonds are $8 a pound. So I'm going to say 8x plus, and then my cashews, if I look, are $10 a pound. So I'm going to say 10y equals my total amount of money. So that is my equation. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to figure out, okay, she wants to know about how much she can buy of each one. So let's figure out, first of all, what's the maximum amount of each one she can buy. So if she's just buying almonds, let's say she's just buying almonds, so I'm going to say 8x plus, and then I'm going to say she's not buying any cashews, so I'm going to plug 0 in for y. Then I have 8x equals 40, or x equals 5. So I know the absolute most she could buy for almonds would be 5 pounds of almonds. So 5 pounds of almonds. And then if we were talking about just cashews, I would say I don't want any almonds, so I'm going to plug 0 in for pounds of almonds. And then I'm going to do 10y equals 40. then I have 10y equals 40 and y equals 4. So if she didn't buy any almonds, she could buy 4 pounds of cashews. Okay, so maximum 5 pounds of almonds or 4 pounds of cashews. Now I'm going to use that information to graph what that would look like. Okay, so if I graph that information, I put 5 pounds of almonds, I put 4 pounds of cashews, and then you connect that line. And something for you to know about that line is that line can be really useful. That means that any ordered pair on that line shows us a possible solution. Okay, so on this graph, you can see that they already highlighted a little bit for you. It's kind of fuzzy, so I'll rewrite over it. So if you bought 2 pounds of almonds, you could get 2.4 pounds of cashews. And then another option would be, okay, if you got 2 pounds of cashews, you could get 2.5 pounds of almonds. And the reason they selected those points in the middle was because they were trying to see the closest that she wanted. Sorry, I'm struggling with words. It says in the problem, she wants about the same amount of almonds as cashews. So that's why on that line, they went kind of towards the middle, right? Because that's in the middle of that line is going to be where you have about the half and half split. So that's why they chose those 2 points as possible solutions for their problem. Okay? So what I want you to take away from this problem is the fact that the line that you're drawing, every point on there is a possible solution for the equation. Okay? And then we have example 4, write an equation in standard form given 2 points. So here you have a couple of options. We have 0, 2, and 8, 0. So you can use those 2 points to find your slope, first of all. So you can say 0 minus 2 over 8 minus 0. That's negative 2 over 8, or negative 1/4. So I could use that to write an equation in point slope form. So I could say y minus 2, I'm just going to use this point right here for my point slope, equals negative 1/4 x minus 0. And then what you can do in order to get it to standard form is, first of all, let's get rid of those parentheses. So I have y minus 2 equals negative 1/4 x, and then negative 1/4 times 0 is just 0. So what I'm going to do is now I want to move my numbers around so that way x and y are on the same side. So I'm going to add 1/4 x. So I have 1/4 x plus y minus 2 equals, I got rid of everything on that side, but I still need to get x and y, so it's just x and y. I need to move that 2 over to the other side. So I have 1/4 x plus y equals 2. And then if you remember on the first slide, I told you a very important fact about my a and b values. So right now, a is 1/4, b is an invisible 1. I don't like fractions. So I'm going to take 1/4 x plus y equals 2, and I'm going to multiply everything by a number to get rid of that fraction. And in order to get rid of a fraction, you just take whatever is in your denominator and multiply by that, because 4 over 1 times 1/4, that just equals 1, right? Yes, so that's why I do that. So I'm going to distribute. 4 times 1/4 is just 1x plus 4 times 1y is 4y. And don't forget to distribute all the way over. 4 times 2 is 8. My equation is x plus 4y equals 8. Okay, so it's very important that if you get a fraction, you get rid of that fraction. All right, why don't you try this one on your own? Good luck. All right, for this problem, hopefully your work looked similar to mine. You found the slope, you plugged it into point slope form, and then you just solved, okay? And at the end, you probably ended up with a 2/3 x plus y equals 4. So you have to get rid of that fraction by multiplying everything by 3. So that's how we ended up with 2x plus 3y equals 12. Okay, if you have any questions about that or anything else at all from this lesson, please don't hesitate to ask. I'm more than happy to assist you. Have a great day.